we are going to get started and allow others to join in as they do. Welcome to another Stepping Stone to AAC, Whatcha Got Cookin'. I'm Heather Prenovo, and I'm joined by...
I'm Beth Waite-Lefevre.
Get started. I was going to remember to do one more thing. All right, Beth, when you need to, you have control of the mouse too. So here we go.
Okay. Is that the next slide? We should have some before that.
Since it's not Ashley, I hit those.
Oh, okay, fine. All right. Well, yeah, after the course, we do have a feedback survey that we ask you to give us some input on. And so you can go to my courses and learning plans and AAC learning journey, and you'll select the tile that has the name of this class. And when you do that, you'll see this screen that has overview and content. And if you select content, you'll get that little link that has the feedback survey. So we always look at those to get ideas for new classes. And so we appreciate that feedback.
And similarly, right around that area, that was the slide that was hidden, is where the handouts are if you did not see those before logging in tonight.
Yeah. And so Heather and I are both speech language pathologists, and we're training and implementation specialist with PRC Saltillo. So we're always interested to find out who's here today. So if you would be interested in letting us know in the chat, if you're a parent or a teacher or a speech pathologist or whatever else your profession might be, or your situation, or why you're here today.
I always try to come up with a list, and I feel like I always leave off like one title that somebody is.
Yeah, but we have behavior therapist. A lot of times I'll forget that, a lot of times we'll have a behavior therapist or a paraprofessional. Yeah, so lots of different folks show up to this class.
AT specialists, yes.
Mm-hmm. So we know that when we talk about AAC, there's no quick route. We all have a journey, and we all kind of begin and follow that journey at a different pace. And so we're glad that you're here joining us on this journey and allowing us to be part of your journey. So part of the reason we do the Stepping Stone series is to really help people get a sense of where you can start and where you can go from there. So we did the Stepping Stone series a couple of weeks ago with Whatcha Got Cookin', where we did some kind of basic communicating, basic functions and kind of beginning steps. And so tonight we're really going to take that a step further with another stepping stone and talk about some different kinds of language functions. So we have oh, go ahead.
No, you're good. Just a reminder of the handouts that I mentioned at the beginning. We're going to go through them together tonight and talk about how you would fill them in. One is called an organizational tool that looks like this, and that's the one we'll fill out together. And one is a reference tool, so you can take it with you afterwards and be like, oh, what did Beth and Heather tell us? What goes into each of those sections, and that'll be a good reminder. Or if you plan to share it out with coworkers, families, staff that may be working with your child. And we started with this because cooking and planning for activities is a great way to communicate. And when we generalize targeted vocabulary across different activities with that core vocabulary, we just get a lot more repetition. So some of the ideas that we had were the shopping list, the planning, what you want to wear, where you want to go, that kind of.
And if you think about activities that you do every day, that can be a great place to start, because these are things that you're going to be repeating over and over again. So you're going to have lots of opportunities to learn those words and then practice them in what is a natural situation versus an artificial situation.
Exactly. So the other handouts that you might see, or you will see in your learning journey tab is manual boards. So sometimes not using the device is okay, especially when we're talking about food or water, being around pools, being around the bathtub. You might want to have something for communication that isn't going to get destroyed. And so these manual boards are great. So there are manual boards for Unity vocabulary, the 84 sequence. There's one for Lamp Words for Life, and there's one for Word Power based on the Word Power 60 basic file. You can use that tonight to follow along if you've printed it out, or if you have the device with you. That's great too. And we'll be talking about a lot of these core words that you see on those home pages.
So as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we did an activity with making cupcakes, and you can actually go onto our YouTube channels, either PRC brand or Saltillo brand, and look for stepping stones, and you can see that video. And in that video, we talked about the act of making cupcakes and what kinds of core words would you use, what words would you teach and model on the communication device. So this is a little bit kind of the next step, is we're going to talk about making a shopping list and talk about maybe some of the things that we might want to put on our cupcakes. So if we were going to actually make our cupcakes and now we want to decorate them, we're going to think about what kinds of things we might want to buy.
There we go.
So yeah, we're going to pull a slide up here and we're going to get some images to put on this one that would be our shopping list. So when I think about what I would like to put on a cupcake, first thing that comes to mind is icing or frosting. I'm going to go buy that at the store. So that would definitely be in my list.
All right, so let's search for some icing. And in the chat window, if you want to chat out, what are some other things that you might want to put on your cupcake? What should we be shopping for? What will we get? Beth, which kind would you like?
I'm going to have to go with chocolate.
Right. I like it. Chocolate frosting it is.
And we're going to need sprinkles.
We have to have lots of colors in our sprinkles. Else will we get? And while we're doing this kind of planning, we want you to be thinking about what are some of those words you're hearing us use as we plan a shopping list. I think I want to put worm.
I hope you mean a gummy worm.
I suppose we can do gummy worms. And that's okay too if you've got a AAC user who gives you something that you're like, what? That doesn't go on cupcakes. Have fun with it. Put it on the list. What else will we get when we go shopping?
I'm thinking of like M&Ms.
If we have M&Ms in our. Oh, we do.
Oh, they even have M's on them.
I was excited when I saw that.
What else will we get?
I know what I want. I want to put a candle on my cupcake.
Oh, we will celebrate a birthday, huh?
I think we will. And I think we will get yellow, my favorite color. Oh, one more thing. What else will we get to put on our cupcakes?
We could get
marshmallows. Yes,
okay.
Mini marshmallows. I was just thinking. And Brian, do you want the white mini marshmallows or the colors? To be honest, I don't know. The white ones, I was gonna say, I don't know that I've ever bought the multicolor marshmallows. So I was interested to hear.
Makes me think of Lucky Charms cereal with the little colored marshmallows.
Right. Which makes me also think, keeping it classic, I agree. I mean, now that there's different shapes and I know somebody is going to think of getting fancy and we could put cookies on top of.
Mm. Yeah, especially if
Or
you
even,
want to crumble them up and put them under your worms.
you're right. Exactly. So you get the idea there with making that list together in the chat window, and we can shout them out too. We're going to go back into our presentation slides here. There we go.
So this is also information that's really good for us to think about, is that language occurs in stages. So, we think about how a learner uses words and word endings and functions of language and all those kinds of things. We want to make it so that it's appropriate to their learning level and their development. So we think about things like their mean length of utterance, the number of words and word units that they're using, and how many words they're using in their responses. So this is a nice resource to kind of look at what are some of those language functions and stages. And this comes from our AAC language lab.
And it's also included in your handouts, along with thinking about those, not just the pragmatic functions, but as Beth mentioned, those different levels of language too. Are we just at that one word kind of labeling phase? Are we starting to add in some detail or some adjectives? So both of those are together in your handouts.
Yeah.
And I realized I need to open this, so my apologies, Beth. There we go. We're going to fill out that organization tool together we are making our list for shopping. I apologize, but when you have autosave on, you don't realize that. Even though I didn't save. So what are some core words that you heard us using when we were planning the shopping list?
I heard get.
Want. Ooh, that's a yep. I heard Beth using will a lot. Not. I think I was using put. Yep, like. Another one we could be using. And being that we are all speech language pathologists tonight, thinking about those communicative functions when we're planning ahead for something, what are some of those functions we could be targeting, or you think we did target? We did some commenting, but not really.
Comments. We referenced future events because we talked about what we will get.
Directing action, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think depending upon, I like it. When I don't like it, accepting and rejecting, I want this on the list. Ooh, I like that, yeah. So you get kind of the idea here is not just doing the I wants all the time. And this gives you a way of thinking ahead too, of what else could we be targeting once we pick that activity, which I think is helpful when you're trying to share it with other teammates too, that, hey, we're working on this. And if we can come up with things together and they can kind of see it laid out, sometimes it makes it a little more concrete. So that's step one.
And then as we think about how we're going to put this into practice, we want to remember that kind of with thoughtful intention, we can plan what we're going to say and think about using those open-ended questions and comments to encourage communication. Because if I say like, do you like marshmallows? I'm only going to get a yes or no, and I'm going to really limit. But if I say, what do you like on your cupcake, which is what we talked about earlier, then you notice that we came up with all kinds of responses. We had the worms and the M&Ms and the icing and so forth. So those open-ended questions really encourage communication, and they give us a chance to provide modeling. So let's say we ask an open-ended question and we don't get a response. We can provide some more wait time, or then we could give some options. And if our AAC learner is only responding with 1 or 2 word phrases, then we also want to help build their vocabulary. So let's say that we can expand, so we can add a word to what their initial utterance is. If they're using 1 word, we can add another one to make a 2-word phrase. If they're using 2, we can add another one to make a 3-word phrase. Or we could do what's called recast, where we actually provide them with a grammatically correct version of what they said without being punitive. So it's another way to increase their language level. And these are some great tips that we can use when we're modeling during an activity like this.
We're going to hop back over to our organizational tool and fill it in a little bit more. So if I'm going to put our get, want, and put. When you're doing this, and highly recommend starting out with just 1 or 2 words, 3 words max. Since we're all working together on this, we can kind of combine it together, but give yourself, start simple. As you get more comfortable, add in a few more words that you might be targeting. But if it's, first time trying to model on a device, pick one of those and stick with that. What are some open-ended questions or comments that you could model with get, want, or put? I know we said I will get frosting.
I know I always say put it on the list when I'm making a list.
And if you've got kiddos or those who are put it on, it might just be that part of a sentence. Ooh, do you want this? Yeah. And how could we change that to an open-ended versus a yes and no?
We could say, what do you want?
Yeah. And that is definitely something I still have to pause, and I go back to yes, no questions are just so natural to us. But giving them that opportunity by flipping it into that, what do you want? Now we've got all those possibilities, like Beth said, maybe I want worms, maybe I want cookies. And we don't have to predict ahead of time what words to have on there. How about ones that have like or not like questions or comments? I like worms.
I like. Okay.
How do you? How do you like your cupcake? Yeah. And I had asked Beth, what frosting do you like?
And I always put my plug in here for questions that aren't really questions, because sometimes it can feel like we're interrogating our communicator and we don't really want to do that. So you can also do an I wonder statement. So it kind of lends itself to asking a question, but it doesn't seem so, so much like an interrogation. So I wonder what we should put on our cupcake.
Exactly. I love I wonder statements. And last but not least, we had put, we did get up there and put, didn't we? We combined. So we could have put down here. But you get the idea of jotting all those down. The nice thing is, it seems like a lot of work initially to be doing this before an activity, but it really gets your mind in that pattern of what I could be saying, and takes away the stress during the activity. And the more you do it, the more it starts to come more naturally, more automatic. Ooh, I wonder who we should give it to. I like that. I wonder who we should give the cupcake to. I like that. Got it. Our next step then is to prep ahead of time. Where are those words? I know for me, that is always probably the most stressful part of modeling, is knowing where the words are. So if you prep ahead of time, you can take away a little bit of the stress. So we can find will and get and put and have and get. Oops, too far. Couple tips and tricks that Beth and I have noticed over the years or used over the years. If you're using these manual boards, laminate them. You can dry erase, highlight the word, circle them, which is also great as you're handing it off to somebody else. Hey, here's the word we're modeling. Just focus on these words. If you're doing it on the device, you can go in and create a border around that button, even if it's just for that session, just to draw your attention in there and help you develop more of that automaticity, take away some of the visual tracking of it. So just some ideas.
Yeah, and you can actually take that board and put the organizational tool with your words together, and you've got a little packet that you can keep with the activity. If it's an activity that's repeated, that your student likes, then you've got that ready to go and pull out kind of in a moment's notice. So when you're in a classroom situation where you've got, busy stuff going on and you need to pull something out to kind of, do a quick activity that doesn't take a lot of time to prep, or if you're a parent at home and you want to do something with your child, but you're it's the end of the day and you've had a full day and you're tired and it's kind of hard to think, you just pull one of these out and they're ready to go.
Right. And you can always reuse them. So that's the nice thing too, as we mentioned, the core words, even if it's a different activity, you're like, hey, all right, we're going to do Play-Doh and we're still going to talk about what we're going to get. You're all set. All right. Oops. We are going to come back to our decorations here. And we're going to pull up our, there it is. I'm going to try to have enough where we can all see. Oops. Let's practice modeling, and I'm going to let Beth take over the control of the mouse.
Okay. So if we can remember some of the words we said
Get
was one of the words I remember we said. We said like was one of them. So if I were planning my shopping list, like we talked about earlier, we would say, what should we get at the store for our cupcakes? We should get, and then we talked about getting I'm going to say cookies. So we can get cookies. We also talked about the future tense saying the word will. So we could actually model that. So we can kind of take it up a notch. Instead of just talking about the current present tense, we could actually model the word will. So we're making our list. So we will get. And let's see, let's get frosting. Now, I believe I looked before, and this is a kind of a tip. If you're looking for a word, and maybe it could be a different couple ways to describe that word. So you could call frosting icing or frosting. And I believe that icing isn't in here, but frosting is.
Frosty, I saw it down there.
Did you see it?
Down on the bottom row, there's icy and frosty.
Oh, there's frosting. I'm going to use my word finder and find it, because that's another tip if you don't know where a word is. Whoops.
Was frost.
Yep. So anyway, you could do frost, like we can frost, they're going to get frosting to frost the cupcakes. We could do candy. So we can use that will and get. We can also make some of those question words, like we asked, like who will get the cupcake? So maybe we're going to model who will get cupcake. who will get the cupcake. And when you model too, you verbally are going to say a complete sentence, but you're only going to choose those 1, 2, or 3 words to model on the device. So sometimes when people first start out, they get a little confused and think, oh, I have to find every single word on the device and then say that word as I'm saying it out loud. And so that's a little overwhelming. We really want to focus on just those few words. So it's best if you say your sentence and then just model, again, 1, 2, or 3 words as you're modeling for your communicator. So you can do that on a manual board. You can do it on the communicator's device. I always ask first, is it okay if I show you something on your device? Or if you have a secondary device, you can model on that.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to go back into the slides one more time. Forgot we had gone back to that one. All right. So we're going to finish things up this evening and just ask you to kind of think through your thoughts on the strategy. Do you have questions around this that are still lingering? If you were practicing alongside with us, how does that feel? And what are your next steps? What are you thinking you're going to do next with this?
It really does take some practice with the modeling. A lot of times, again, it can feel a little funny trying to talk and use the device at the same time. And that's why we say it's really good to start off with just single words and then eventually maybe 2 words when you're just getting started.
Exactly. Follow their lead. If they're starting to add that second word, all right, now we're ready. And even if you're not seeing that progress, it's okay to add that second or third word, as Beth mentioned earlier. We want to expand just a little bit. All right, Fran, asking open-ended questions is something I struggle with sometimes, so it's good to practice and find those new ways. Exactly. And when we first started doing this series and I would start to do some video modeling, I would catch myself and I'd stop and be like, nope, and refer back to my own script. It's a new activity, especially grab my script and write out some open-ended questions because it's, like I said, so natural to go back to those yes/no questions.
And I think too, it's one of those things, once you start doing it, you start catching yourself. Oh, I could think of a better way to ask that question.
Totally. And I think it helps, especially when we're explaining to others that are just starting on their AAC journey as well, about, well, how am I to know if, they answer the question correctly? That's the beauty of some of those open-ended questions, is allowing them to answer in whatever way or however they want. And we don't necessarily have to have the right answer available to them on the device. Let them respond, as we did in this, where I was like, I want worms.
Yes.
Okay. What if they, hit, I want dogs. Okay, yeah, let's put dogs on our paper cupcake. It's fine.
It goes back to making meaning. Make meaning out of what it is that they say. And that helps our young learners learn that they're communicating.
Exactly. So if we're always doing yes, no, or having to feel like we have to know what the answer is going to be, it'll stress all of us out, I think. So this can take away some of that.
I don't know about you, Heather, but I'm ready for a cupcake now.
I know. I know all the cupcakes from a couple weeks ago have been eaten, so I am without, but I might go have some ice cream. Right. If there aren't any other questions, I'll let you guys get on with your evening. As Beth mentioned, this will be recorded and up on our YouTube channels, as well as Beth. Where else can they find activities around cupcakes? I know you shared last time, and I'll bring up my web browser quick.
Yes, the AAC Literacy Planner, which you can find at printrom.com, is a free download as well as a print publication you can get from your PRC Saltillo consultant that has 12 books around food this year. It's called Fun with Food, and they have activities and lesson plans and so forth. And so the January story is called Stir, Crack, Whisk, Bake, and that is a little book about cupcakes. And so you can do the activities. There's a read aloud story on the PRC brand YouTube channel that has the book, so you don't even have to buy the book. And you can kind of follow up with making cupcakes.
To show where that is, because I love our read aloud. Right here, January 2023.
Yep.
And after the ad.
Earning a timer and a cupcake. So you'll get smart charts for Lamp Words for Life, Unity 84 sequenced, and Word Power 60 basic. They are putting a lot of.
I love that you get to see that as you go through. So question. Perfect. Do I need to provide Ashley? So this one is not a CEU course, so no worries about the Ashley number for this.
You will get a certificate you can use to manage your own CEUs, but for this, because it's just a half-hour short course, we don't actually submit it to ASHA.
Registry. Get kind of that clock hours certificate. Well, again, if you have any other questions, let us know, and we really appreciate you joining us.
Okay, so yeah, Brian, you just, if you track your own log hours through ASHA, there's a form you can fill out, and you just keep the certificate, but you fill out the information, and then if you're ever audited, they ask you for the certificate. But if you go on the ASHA website, it'll talk about the certificate maintenance hours, I think they call them.
Mm-hmm.
It'll explain on there how that works.
I just plop them in the folder with all my other hours.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us. Have a good evening.